Words I can use to describe this movie: exhausting, chaotic, frantic, and absolutely bonkers. It's an emotional roller coaster ride that takes a Chinese immigrant family on a real emotional trip through the multiverse so they can get a real good look at each other and see what's going on. But does it make any sense? That's what I'm going to be talking about during my review and my breakdown of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm going to break down the good, I'm going to break down the bad. So please drop a like, hit that subscribe button. Let's go. This movie stars Michelle Yeoh playing Evelyn Wang, a middle-aged Chinese immigrant that owns a laundromat who's overwhelmed and absolutely tired by her failing marriage, business, and her relationship with her daughter. Soon her life gets turned upside down completely when she discovers the multiverse and how to access it. And she gets to access the thoughts and the abilities of infinite amount of versions of her. But she doesn't get to have fun for long when she finds out that someone in the multiverse is knocking off different versions of her and killing them, and she is next. Now let's talk about the good. Some of my favorite sci-fi stories is when writers and directors use these crazy, outwardly bonkers theories like the multiverse and tell these very relatable and honest stories about people. In this story, Evelyn, like I said in the intro, is failing on all parts of her life, and she's wondering about how would it be if she made different choices. That's where the multiverse comes. She starts seeing different versions of her who made different choices and how those things would either make her life better or make her life absolutely crazy. And the character arc here of her just being this tired person who's just over it and just trying to keep the family afloat, and where she gets to the end of it after going this crazy bonkers journey was really, really entertaining. Michelle Yeoh does a fantastic job as the lead character in this movie. She plays Evelyn with such heart and honesty and vulnerability, but also keeps a great front when she's around her family, when she's around people who she needs to keep a certain appearance around. Michelle Yeoh smashes it as Evelyn. Great comedic timing, great dramatic acting, and really great badass fluid action sequences. And Michelle Yeoh doesn't carry this movie on her own. She has some very key supporting cast members that help prop this up and elevate it a little bit more. Wayman Wang is played by Ki Hao Su, and he does a great job of being the humanity of this movie. He's really, really, really funny, and he has a lot of heart, and he also, no matter what version we get of him, and we see different versions of him as well, he's always trying to do the right thing. He's always trying to lead with love, and he was really there for her no matter what the situation was. Like I said, he's getting divorced. You kind of see him as this messed up thing that he's doing because she's not even aware that the marriage is going wrong. But he's doing it because he feels like she is unhappy. And there's different versions that you get to see throughout the movie. And the daughter, played by Stephanie Su, she's, a teenager who's going through this existential crisis, trying to live up to her mother's daunting expectations and also trying to be the individual she wants to be, and continually always arguing and butting heads. And I really related to that because I had a lot of that in my teens as well. This is their story just as much as Evelyn's. And Jamie Lee Curtis plays this tax broker who I'd never seen her in a role like this before, but she does a fantastic job. Great comedic timing, great action, and a lot of great laughs that came from her role. She knocked it out of the park as being one of the really supporting characters. She supported every character in this movie really well. And on the technical side, this movie is fantastic. The cinematography is very understated, and the trailers don't do it justice. When you see it in the movie theater, it looks really great. The colors really pop. The set designs are done really well. You can tell that this movie didn't get like a super high budget, but they did a great job with the artistic flares of the movie to make it feel really, really, really lived in, and like you're transported into a universe. And the VFX is done really well when we're jumping through universes or using weird technology or seeing these bonkers concepts that we're getting as we jump through different Evelyns and see the world through their eyes, their version of the world. Is done really fantastically, and even the practical effects are done really well and really funny as well. The score is done really well. There's some music here that I will remember, and hopefully when I see this movie again that I can pick up on. The action is choreographed really, really well, with action scenes very fluid, some being very brutal. All the actors are a part of it, really kick kick ass, and it feels like what I wanted Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, the Marvel movie, what I wanted that action to be. Like that classic Chinese martial arts kung fu, but a little bit impacted, a little bit more. It's like it's a little bit of a dance, but when they hit, it hits. And the comedy, the trailer does not play up how funny this movie is. Oh my god, I was laughing throughout the movie from the beginning to almost towards the end. There's so many gags going on in this movie that's continually going on that you pick up and just gets funnier and funnier. Never feels too drawn out. All the actors get to shine in terms of comedy, and their timing is, I didn't think anybody was corny. And it's different variations of comedy as well. It has relatable comedy in terms of like family dynamics and how sometimes that could be funny and how you interact with your family members. Then they have very physical slapstick humor and one of the craziest gags with a butt plug that I ever seen that I never thought was gonna happen, but it's there. You got to see it to believe it. It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, the comedy in this supports the story. It supports the action. It supports a lot of the emotional darkness that we go through here, where it's a little bit of levity, and like obviously this is just such a ridiculous, bonkers story and situation that you gotta laugh at it. You can't take it too seriously. So I think they did a great job doing that as well. And I love the themes of this movie, generational love and trauma, and how that can pass through, and you don't even know that something that your parents or your grandparents or your great grandparents did to you or did to your grandparents, how that passes on to you and how you're passing it on to your children. And even though you're trying to avoid being like your mother or your father, you end up turning out like them and doing the same things that they did to you, to your child, and how that affects your relationships across the board, and how your choices can make things turn drastically different. And another theme is also, love what you have, don't wonder about what you don't. The grass may not be greener on the other side. And Michelle Yeoh's Evelyn saw that clearly as she started tapping into the multiverse and seeing like she feels like she's a failure in the version that we have here. She's not good at anything. She's not great at anything. But we see as she's great at so many different things in all these other different universes that she's missing the core thing that she has here. And that's a central theme, trying to hold on to the love and the togetherness that she has with her family here, even though she as an individual is not achieving all the dreams that she wished she had. And that's empowered by, half of the story is about a Chinese immigrant family just trying to figure out themselves individually and as a family, and that generational trauma and love. But also it's still a sci-fi story, and all the sci-fi aspects of it is really good as well. And they even say like, they're not going to try to explain the multiverse in a way to you. It's like, no, this is ridiculous. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense, but we're here and this is what we're going to do. There's a force of people that are tapped in the multiverse, jumping from different multiverses, trying to protect versions of Evelyn. There's this one entity that she trained because she's the one that came up with the multiverse concept within one of the universes, and she pushed this person too far, and now they want to destroy every version of her, and how that those two forces are colliding, and now is this particular Evelyn, the one that we know, the one that we're following, is the only one that can stop it. It's a classic hero's tale, a superhero tale, and you don't get to see a lot of older women be superheroes. So I thought that was a very strong aspect of this as well. Now let's talk about the bad. So there's a lot of sections of this movie where the frantic, chaotic, fun pace is slowed down so they can, explain all the sciencey stuff and what is going on. And it happens a couple times, and I feel like sometimes the information they're given is a little bit repetitive, and it also breaks the whole, show, don't tell. They tell you a lot and they don't show. And it doesn't kill the movie for me because I still think the movie is fantastic, but I wish they found a way to show us what was saying instead of just, blurring out a bunch of exposition. I understand this is not a $100 million, $200 million blockbuster, so it probably was budget constraints, because they do that in certain aspects, and in certain aspects they don't. So that's why I was confused why they didn't just do it all the time and kind of just have one single part of the movie where they just explain everything and just show you what happened and have like some flashbacks. But I also get that probably because of budget constraints they couldn't. And with that, there are some scenes that feel like they were dragged just a little bit, not crazy amounts, but just a little bit too much. Some action sequence that went on maybe a little too long, some dramatic sequences that went on a little too long, some comedy gags that went on a little too long, but they weren't bad. It was just overstuffed. And I always rather a movie that's overstuffed than just cut and that doesn't make any sense. But I can see some people feeling like the movie dragged a bit. We have so many different types of multiverse stories going on inside of media. You know, multiverse stories been going on for ages in certain classic movies, and has had a resurgence with like the Arrowverse on CW, now Loki on Disney Plus with the Marvel shows. We're about to get the Doctor Strange movie later this year. With this movie, obviously, like I said, I think it was a budget constraint. We didn't get to really explore the different multiverses. It was just really focused on showing the life of the different characters and how they would be if different choices were made, but we didn't get to go into those worlds and really see the differences of the worlds. And I think that it was fine. I think that it wouldn't have served the story and would have taken away from other aspects that was really great. But I could see with the trailer saying that this is a multiverse story, that some people come in and expecting that and wanting more of that. So I just want to give you a heads up. Let's talk about my verdict. All in all, I absolutely love this movie, even with my minor nitpicks about some of the way the story was unveiled, and somehow some of the scenes lasted a little long, because the emotional story between the family was fantastic and written really well. The dialogue was hilarious and relatable. The action sequences were fun. The comedy was a blast. The movies, and I also didn't touch about how the movie is very creative. There's so many different things that they did in this movie that you don't see in movies these days, that I was just blown away. This is definitely one of my favorite film of the year so far. This is my favorite A24 film, and I'm a very big fan of the studio. I think that Michelle Yeoh did a fantastic job being the star of this movie. The supporting cast did a great job supporting her and elevating the movie as well. This is one of my probably going to be go down. I know this might be recency bias, but this might be going down as one of my favorite movies of all time. Where in that list? I don't know, but I really, really enjoyed my time. It was one of my number 3 most anticipated movie of the year, I believe. I did that video earlier in the year. It blew my expectations away. Even with it being my number 3, it blew my expectations away. I did not expect it to be this good. I got so emotional. I wanted to cry up, but I was with my friend, and I was like, I gotta be a manly man with my friend. But then I looked over at him, and he had tears in his eyes, and I was like, oh, let's let him loose. Let's do this. The themes, the action, the acting, the visual, trippy, fever dream effects, and the feelings of everything make this movie a damn masterpiece almost. You can see how much I love this movie. I'm giving it an A. Comment your thoughts down below. Let me know if you saw this movie, if you have any questions about this movie. I know that it's, as of today when I recorded this video, it did like a small release, and next week Friday, I think April 8th or April 1st is when it's wide and everybody gets it. So some people didn't get a chance to see it. But let me know your thoughts down below about the movie. Like, subscribe to my channel, and you can watch more right now.